All right, man. Keep it together. One more whiskey. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I am Jordan, and as I just muttered, we got one more whiskey to go through. We've already gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be number 7. We're going to finish with a peated whiskey, um, and that'll be plenty of whiskey for today for Jordan. So, Ledaig single malt Scotch, 10 years old, from the Isle of Mull. Uh, Knew nothing about it. It was a new whiskey to both my wife and I. And on our anniversary up in Montana, we saw this and we're like, hey, let's have some peated Scotch tonight. Something a little bit different, something we've never had. Now, 10 years old in the Scotch realm of things is pretty young. And because in Scotland you can use previously used oak barrels, unlike bourbon, it takes a while for the flavor to mellow out and get some of the characteristics and nuances that you'll get from the barreling, along with the climate, because it is cooler, damper, and especially being on some of the islands, you're surrounded by the ocean air and just it's a fairly cool environment. Um, Normally, in order to force that whiskey into the wood, you need a hot temperature, which is why in like Texas, in 2 years, 3 years, you get some pretty dark characteristics out of the barreling that you have when you put a whiskey in down there. You get hot, dry. That's really going to force that whiskey into the barrel quickly. You don't get that in Scotland. And so 10 years old is kind of I won't say the bare minimum, but it's in the realm of the bare minimum. So I have the Wee Beastie from Ardbeg is a 5 year old, and I finished that, and I also finished the Lagavulin 8 that I had. That's on the young side of Scotch. You can get some other bottlings from Kalila. They are the blender in a lot of whiskeys, especially if they're looking for a peat characteristic. You're going to get Kalila as that blending component. If you have, like, one of my favorites, for cheap but still good Scotch, especially peated Scotch, is the McClellan's. I think that is the minimum, which is 3, maybe 4 years old. Um, that's pretty young for a Scotch. Whole point is 10 years old. You have your Ardbeg 10, your Laphroaig 10, Lagavulin. You can get the Offerman editions and stuff, which are 11 years. That's a pretty young Scotch and is just right about the point where you're starting to develop a really nice, really user-friendly flavor profile. And so, with that, this is a 10-year-old single malt Scotch. And yeah, got this for our anniversary. We bought this in Big Timber, Montana. Let's see here. What did I pay? $52.29. And we bought this in October of 2024. And my wife and I enjoyed a fantastic anniversary. We went fly fishing with a buddy of mine. We floated the Yellowstone River down Paradise Valley. I did not do so good. I think I got skunked, mainly because I was throwing streamers and I really didn't want to. Really don't like bobber fishing, but my wife caught several whitefish and I think 1 or 2 trout. My buddy caught a couple of trout, and I took the sticks most of the time because my buddy was kind enough to let us float, use his boat and float with them, and we had ourselves a good time anyways. And he had his dog with. It's pretty fun. Boy, that's a lot. We're not going to end up drinking all that. So my wife and I, we went up to Livingston. We spent a night in Livingston, kind of bummed around town, went to all the little shops and stuff downtown. Complete tourist trap in kind of an uppity little downtown area, but They do have a really good liquor store as far as selection goes. Within the immediate area of us, they probably had the best liquor selection there. I really should remember the name of the liquor store, but I don't. Um, so they had a lot of bottles that we can't find almost anywhere within 4 or 5 hours of here. They're probably the best selection. And then the next day we floated, and then we were staying down by Chico. We got a little Airbnb. We went to Chico Hot Springs. My wife and I had a really nice dinner there. Went and soaked in the hot springs for a while, and then the next day we went into Yellowstone National Park. We were just in the park for like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 hours, something like that. We walked around like Mammoth Hot Springs, and we kind of did some of the parts of the park that we hadn't stopped and taken the time to explore before, and then we just had ourselves a little tailgate picnic lunch there in the Lamar Valley, and then headed out. So it was a really, really nice little 3-day getaway, and we decided to opt for this because it was something we'd never seen before, and it was something we had never had before. So coming in at 46.3% ABV, what is that? 92.6 proof. Weren't even familiar with the Isle of Mull. There's several islands that produce Scotch. Sorry, I'm kind of stammering a little bit here with my ahs and ums. I don't really know where I want to go with all this, but we got the Isle of Skye. I'm drawing a blank. There is at least one, if not two, other scotches that I have that are peated and from islands, and I'm not sure which all islands they are. But as you know, we are both peat fans, and island scotches tend to have that peat in them, and so that's where we're going to gravitate. I have to say, straight off the nose, up front, you get a really nice peated smoke. It's not campfire. It's not a wood smoke at all. It's just a nice, light iodine peat smoke. You get a sweetness of maybe like an apricot in there, and some vanilla, a little bit of Band-Aid. It's a very light and easily approachable scotch in the peated category for sure. Again, 10 years old. You're not going to get a lot of depth of color, which is not uncommon if you look at like even Ardbeg, which like the Ardbeg 10, which brings a lot of flavor to it. It's still going to be pretty light in color. So don't let that be your defining characteristic when you're drinking scotch. Bourbon, sure, you can let that, the age statement and the color dictate, but when it comes to scotch, again, it's once used, if not more, used barrels already with a lot, I'm going to say lighter environment, and by that I mean it's not driving into the wood as hard, as fast, because it's colder. It's a colder environment than if it were hot. But yeah, that peat's really forward. I get a little bit of that dairy barn in there. If you've watched my videos, you know that that's not a negative note. It's just that bitiness in the back of my nasal cavity that reminds me of that, but that's not what it is. It's not like cow crap. It's just that the way that it presents on the back of my nose. It smells really, really good. Smells young, smells light, but good. Going in, right up front, campfire ashiness, a little bit of the peat, boggy swampiness. Get a nice iodine sweet that moves into a little bit of ethanol ding on the back end, and that might be just at where I'm at in all these whiskeys right now. Coupled with a sweetness, has a very creamy mouthfeel. I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot. It is a very nice, well put together whiskey. We tapped into it a little bit here on our anniversary, so you can see the bottles opened up a fair bit. I remember the first night that we drank this, It's not that I was underimpressed with it, given that it's only a 10-year-old. It just was not over the top amazing. I wasn't like floored by how great it was, but this is a great whiskey, well put together, well balanced. Of course, like most things, it's like, oh, it'd be great to see what it is with a little bit more age. If this was like 15, 16 years old, but it is creamy. It is well-rounded in both how it presents. It has a little bit of cling up front, and it does have that charcoaly wood smoke up front. I almost get a little bit of butterscotch. Here we go. Creamy, sweet, a little bit of bitiness from that wood smoke up front, and then it pushes into a creamy butterscotch vanilla. One thing I would say the flavor profile is missing is there is no fruit in there, that no discernible fruit that I'm picking up. But it does have this nice sweet quality to it with like a honey and a vanilla, and it kind of has like a butter creaminess, kind of in the mid palate before it turns into this kind of ashy, slightly, I'm gonna say tannic, but it's like it's almost like an effervescent-y bubbliness on the tongue. It's more of a feel than a taste, but like if you've ever had tonic water, it's kind of like that, where you have like this little bit of sour bitiness, tonic-y bubbleness going on in the finish, underlain with a sweetness that kind of brings it back together, so it's not a harsh flavor profile. Um, and then you really get that smoke and peatiness on the tail end of it. So picture the tonic water bubbly, acrid kind of a note mixed with a sugary sweet, almost vanilla honey, and a peat smoke on the finish. I know those words make it sound probably not that good, but it really is well balanced and put together, and it finishes very, very well. I do like it a lot. Um, But yeah, the one thing this is missing, there is 0 fruit notes that I'm getting at the moment. And again, this is 7 whiskeys deep, and after drinking bourbon and rye and whatever else, so who knows? But nothing's coming out of the glass, either in the nose or the flavor profile, that are screaming fruit, which I'm okay with because, like I said in several other videos, sometimes, if you get a finished whiskey, or if you finished is not the right word. If you got a scotch that is put into a sherry cask or a port cask or something like that, you're going to get a lot of that fruit in there. I do like those fruits a lot. But like Highland Scotch and a lot of different Highland Scotches have a apricot pear, like a very distinct pear nose and flavor note to them, and just not where I live, and I'm not getting that out of this glass, so I'm okay with that. But this is all peat. It's not savory like a Lafroig, where you get that meaty, like baked ham kind of a note. This is all peat, a little bit of sweetness. That time after I said all that, I do get a little bit of that smoked ham right up front in the middle, but it definitely shifts over into a charcoaly, ashy peatiness in there. This one's shifting around on me quite a bit, and I like it. It's a very good experiential product, and I like where it's going. It's going all over the place, and the sweet notes are not overwhelming. So this is leaning more into the peaty notes, and the different ways that peat can present itself, along with yeah, I having trouble describing it. really the sweetness is playing second fiddle to the peat and what all that brings to it. So if you want a peat forward whiskey, go ahead, check this out. It's the Ledaig, and I'm sure I'm slaughtering that because it's Gaelic. Single malt, 10-year-old Scotch. Picked it up for $52.29 for a 10-year-old. Not too bad. And on our final note here, let's read through. Here in malt, we celebrate single malt, blah, blah, blah. 1200 powerful, smoky characteristic, draws inspiration from our islands. Wild and dramatic landscape, blah, blah, blah. 10-year-old. Let's see what they got here. Here we go. Flavors of peat, smoke, sweet and medicinal with a lingering saltiness. Rich peat, smoke, and spice. I'm going to say that they are spot on with their tasting notes. That's exactly what I get out of this. The salt/brininess is tamped down for me. It is present, but it's not one of the leading notes that I would have picked out. But man, that's pretty good, especially for $53. So there you go. I'm going to wrap it up there. I've had plenty to drink for now on a moderately empty stomach. You guys have yourselves a great day. Drop in the comments down below if you've ever had this, if you can find it, what you can find it for in your area, and anything else that you think I need to know about the Ledaig besides how to pronounce it. 10-year-old single malt Scotch. I'm a fan. I think this is a buy, especially at that price. And with that, I will leave you. You guys have yourselves a great day. Join me in the next video when we start our comparison videos of A to B of, we got High West Campfire, Weller 107, Maker's 46, Eagle Rare, and Blanton's, along with our Freeland Spirits, and I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to have another Elmer T. Lee and another, I was going to say another, but my first Blanton's Gold by the time I get around to doing the next set of videos. But until then, hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully the audio and the video quality is a little bit better. I know I rambled a little bit, especially in this video and the last maybe 2 videos. But hopefully you got something out of this. And if you have, please comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And until the next one, we'll catch you in the next video.